This is Liz Colburn, host of The Morning Uplift. Thank you for listening to the following broadcast on Public House Media.
This is Madeline, host of Crowned and Dangerous here on Public House Media. Thanks for listening to the following broadcast on Public House Media. Once you are done with this episode, I hope you'll come back to check out my show, Crowned and Dangerous, where Jessica and I talk about our time in the pageant world. A new show comes out bi-weekly on Thursdays. Don't forget to subscribe on iTunes so you never miss an episode of Crowned and Dangerous. Thanks again for checking out the following broadcast on Public House Media.
Hey everybody, what's up? Welcome and thank you for joining the Confessions of a Military Spouse podcast. I am your host, Jenna Burt. I am a military spouse of almost 10 years, a health and fitness enthusiast, and a mom to the most amazing, beautiful little girl. So on today's episode, I want to talk about the truth about being a military spouse. If someone came up to me and said, Jenna, I want you to describe to me in one word what it is like to be a military spouse, the one word that instantly comes to my mind is hard. And guys, I know there are so many other jobs out there that spouses have that require their attention, require them to be gone for periods of time. I know it's not just the military, but in this sense, and I talk about that a lot in my other podcast, I truly feel like this podcast can relate to so many people in the world and not just military spouses. But this podcast, I do feel like, is more military spouse only related. And that's because I feel like there's other things that go into being a military spouse which make it so hard that other people, even if your husband or spouse does have a job that requires a lot of attention from them and requires them to be gone a lot, I feel like these other factors are not things that those spouses have to deal with. Okay, so let's talk about what I feel like makes being a military spouse so hard. Probably the first thing that I think makes being a military spouse so hard is their schedule. They very, very rarely have an 8 to 5 schedule. There's not really any particular set time that they leave, and there's not really any particular set time that they're going to come home. And even if they do have a job where they have a relatively normal schedule, that is always changing. Always. And I'm laughing because there's just no predicting it. And the minute that you think you have it figured out is exactly the same minute that everything will go to crap and your best laid plans will go awry. So not only on top of their normal schedule not being normal, most of the time they're doing trainings. So maybe they're gone for weeks at a time. And you guys, I cannot tell you the disruption it causes in a household when your spouse leaves for weeks at a time. And I say that with the most love possible, but seriously, it is so disruptive for them to leave and then come back. You know, they're gone for 2 weeks and then all of a sudden they're back. And then, you know, they're gone for another 4 weeks and then they come back. And, you know, that cycle just keeps continuing. And it's hard. It's hard as a spouse because you get into a routine while they're there. You get into a routine while they're gone. And then all of that just, you know, goes awry whenever they're coming and going. And then here comes the big one, the big D. And I am not talking about divorce. I am talking about deployment. So, you know, your kids and yourself are used to your spouse being gone for a couple weeks, coming home, and that cycle repeating. And then boom, all of a sudden they're gone for months at a time. Months. Okay. Yes, it is obviously doable. Multiple spouses do it all the time. I've done it myself and it is doable, but it's not easy. Yes, you get into a routine, but you almost turn on autopilot and you just do what you have to do to survive through the day, because some days you're not sure that you're going to make it until bedtime. And that's why wine was invented. But in all seriousness, Deployment is so hard, not only for spouses, but for kids as well. And honestly, I think kids are even a little more resilient to it than the spouses are. I know for me, my, weekends and my evenings, they pretty much revolve around my husband. And when he's gone, it's a huge change, and it's a big adjustment when he leaves, but it's even a bigger adjustment when he comes back, because by that time, it's months that I've been in this routine with just me and my daughter. And, maybe every Friday I was going to a friend's house for supper because, I was tired of cooking at home, and my daughter was tired of playing Monopoly for the 15th time, and we just needed to get out. And then, all of a sudden he comes home, and you guys, let's be honest, he doesn't want to go and do anything on all of the days. Like, he's been gone for months, and he wants to come home, and he doesn't want to do anything. So it's hard. It is very hard in that sense. And then even the other thing is, when your spouse gets to a certain point within the military, they obviously become a quote unquote boss. And I don't know about you guys, but if you've ever seen a good leader, you know that their work never really stops. So even if they are home, they're still working, and maybe they're not always present. And that in itself is hard too, because, we as spouses, we're adults, and we understand a little bit better why they're working while they're at home, but our kids don't understand that. They're used to, okay, mommy or daddy is here, and I am their sole focus, and then the other parent comes in and has to work from home, and they don't understand. Well, in my situation, I dedicate my time to my daughter, but if my husband is home and he's working, she doesn't understand why he can't do the same. So all of those things make it so hard to be a spouse. And then on top of all of that, there are so many stereotypes for spouses, it's unreal. And you guys would not believe, or maybe you would, I don't know. I didn't believe it when I first became a spouse, but you would not believe the bullying that goes on within the spousal community. And I hate to say it, but this is one of those hard truths that needs to be talked about, because you guys, it is such a real problem, okay? And I say that because I mean it. It is a problem. You would think within the spouse community, everybody is pretty much doing the same thing. Their spouses are military, they're deploying, they're doing workups, they're just working all the time, whatever the situation is, you would think that would instantly create a bond between spouses, but that's not how it is, you guys. That's not how it is at all. Because the biggest thing that comes into play is their spouse's rank. You guys, let me just say this. I am my own individual person. Yes, in a sense, I am an extension of my husband. And when I'm doing things and making decisions, I try to understand that whatever I do is going to reflect on him. But I am my own individual person. And I think that's part of the reason that I work the way that I do, because I like that sense of independence. And I don't ever want to be referred to as my husband's wife. I want to be referred to as Jenna Burt, Dustin Burt's wife. I am not a spouse that will ever wear my rank. Yes, I joke with my husband about it all the time, but I would never ever do that. I would not be like, oh, my husband's this rank and your husband's this rank, so we can't hang out. But you guys, that is the truth of what is happening that people don't see. People get so high up on a pedestal because their husband is a certain rank, and they look down on new spouses whose husbands are a lower rank. They make fun of them, they belittle them, they're mean to them, and they straight bully them. And I mean, it happens within all ranks. It happens just within the military itself, but it's so sad that it's such a real thing. And then with the stereotypes, you kind of have the classifications of spouses as well, which ties into the stereotypes. You have the spouses, like I just talked about, that wear their husband's rank. You have spouses like myself that work And a lot of times we're kind of looked down upon because we work. And the thought process is something like this. Well, you have a young child and your husband deploys and you work. So how are you a good parent? Because how are you possibly taking care of your child? You guys, this is legit stuff I have heard. And that has been said to me. And my response is this. I need to be the best parent that I can be to my child because I am right now the only parent that my child has. And if I can be the best parent that I can be by going to work and filling my cup up, doing something that I love, so that way when I come home, I can be the best parent to my child that I can be, whether it's for 4 hours, whether it's for 8 hours, whether it's for 2 hours, whether it's for 30 minutes. I need to do what I need to do, and I need to take care of myself so I can take care of my daughter. Usually after that, they kind of back away, don't really say much, but I know that the wheels in their brain are turning. And then you have the stay-at-home moms, which I'll be honest, I was kind of a stay-at-home mom snob before my husband deployed because I couldn't understand why so many spouses stayed at home. And then my husband deployed. I was working full-time, I had no family around, and I had an eye-opening experience. And I could truly understand why most spouses stayed at home. You guys, it is so much when your spouse deploys, whether you're stay at home, whether you're working, whatever the situation is, hands down, it's so much. It doesn't matter. And when I was working, it was like an extra load on top of doing all of the things that stay-at-home moms do. And I had the greatest appreciation for stay-at-home moms that I've ever had in my entire life. So shout out to you stay-at-home moms out there that hold the fort down while your spouse is gone, because that is not easy. And then you have what the military community likes to call dependas. And sadly, those are the people that seek military members for marriage just for the benefits and the extra pay. Which, you guys, the benefits aren't that great and neither is the pay. Trust me. But that does bring me to my next point, which is TRICARE. TRICARE is the military insurance, and everybody thinks that it's so wonderful because we don't have any copays, okay? Depending on what, let me just clarify, depending on what type of TRICARE you have, because it's kind of like civilian healthcare where you can have an HMO and a PPO and in-network and out-of-network and yada, yada, yada. So if you have TRICARE Prime, it is true, generally you don't have copayments. But here's what people don't understand about this. We are so limited to the doctors that we can see. We can't just choose whatever doctor we want. We have to pretty much go to whatever doctor they tell us we need to go to. And 95% of the time, it's a military facility. And you guys, I love my military facilities. I love my health insurance. It has given me some amazing, amazing things, but it also has a huge downside. So for those of you that don't know, which is probably most of you listening, I have a vitamin B12 deficiency, I have pernicious anemia, and I have autoimmune gastritis. I was battling with my vitamin B12 deficiency for 5 years before I ever got a proper diagnosis. And I'm just going to tell you guys straight up, the doctor that diagnosed me was not a military doctor. So fast forward, I got diagnosed. This was 2 years later now, that I had seen a military doctor regarding all of this. And we had just moved. I received a certified letter in the mail from the military facility here. And I'm like, what the heck is this? I opened it up and the note read something along the lines of, we audited your chart and realized that you should have been seeing a gastroenterologist, and we wanted to follow up with you 2 years later to make sure that you had been seen. You guys, that's the type of healthcare that we deal with in the military. It's not all like that. No, it's not. But that is a prime example as to why military doctors get such a bad rap, okay? Obviously, I got the care that I needed, but like I said, it wasn't from a military doctor. And then our dental benefits, you guys, they're terrible. I worked in the dental field thankfully in this situation, but I work in the dental field and I can sit here and tell you guys it's terrible. My daughter needed some work done, and I chose to go to a dentist office out of network and pay fully out of pocket the cost of the work that she needed done, simply because I didn't trust anybody that was in network with our insurance. And I know how important it is to create a happy experience at the dentist office for her when she's this young. So I chose to just pay out of pocket. Yeah, it was a financial burden for us in a sense, but we made it happen because her experience is worth more than saving a little bit of money. And, you know, even in that sense, I won't go too far on a rant here, but even in that sense, I could have taken her to someone in the network, but they also could have done a very terrible job, and then I would have been paying double to have the bad job fixed. So you have to kind of look at it like that. And while, yes, we don't have any copays and our healthcare is quote unquote free, you guys, it's not what everybody thinks it is, I promise. And you're really not missing that much. The other thing that makes being a military spouse so hard, in my opinion, is PCSing, which is stands for something like permanent change of duty station. And everybody's like, oh my gosh, every 3 years you get to move. You don't have to pay for it. You get to go someplace new. That must be so cool. Like, what an awesome experience. And yes, you know, in that sense, it is cool. It is a good experience, and it is fun. It is true. Most of the time, if you have the military move you, you don't have to pay for it. But here's the downside to that. Half your stuff can show up broken, and weeks, months after you move. So that's a risk you take. And yeah, we get to move every 3 to 4 years, and we get to go to someplace new, and that's, you know, cool and exciting and fun. But the other thing is that chances are we're not going to be anywhere close to our family. And if you have kids, that is so hard. So hard. And that is the battle that I fight every single day. Where we're at now, we literally have no family. Our friends have become our family, and they have hands down been some of the best friends that we have ever had, but they're not our family. And, you know, let's say you need a break, but you feel guilty for asking your friends to watch your kids because you know they have lives of their own. They have kids of their own. They have things to do. But if you had family around, it'd probably be easier, because I would easily be like, hey mom, I need a break. Here's Ella. And I would just take her over and drop her off, and that'd be done. I could take her to my brother's house. I could even take her to a friend's house. And I know that I can do that with my friends as well, but I always feel so guilty because they're not family, and I feel like they don't have that quote unquote obligation. So, like I said, it is exciting and it is fun to move, but there's downfalls that come with it too that make it so hard. And you guys, I'm not saying that being a military spouse is this horrible, terrible thing. It's not that at all. I truly feel like being a military spouse is what you make of it. And we have definitely had our ups and downs. We've had some really good times on some really crappy duty stations, and we've had some really crappy times at some really good duty stations. So I truly feel like it's all what you make it. But I wanted to uncover even just a little bit about why it is so hard to be a military spouse and the truth about it. You know, I feel like these are things that people don't really talk about because they feel they're going to be judged if they talk about. They don't want pity taken upon them because this is quote unquote the life they chose. And you guys, don't even get me started on that. That is another episode topic coming, because please just don't ever say that to a military spouse. But like I said, I truly feel like it is what you make of it. And you can have really great experiences and really great adventures and really great times if you choose to. But I also feel like it needs to be said. These things need to be talked about, and the truth needed to be uncovered about some of the top things that I think make it so hard to be a military spouse. Thank you guys for listening to the Confessions of a Military Spouse podcast. I hope you guys have a wonderful, wonderful day, and tune in bi-weekly so you never miss an episode.